Today's episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by Federal Premium Ammunition, Benelli Shotguns, and by Carlson's Choke Tubes, a 1-2-3 punch that we take with us every day into the field. Today's guest, Casey Weismantel, lives in one of the most pheasant-rich places in North America. In a roundabout way, it's his job to tell hunters where they can find birds. Hello, my feather-chasing friends. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. My name is Travis Frank. I'll be your host today, and it's an honor to talk hunting with you as always. In just a couple of short months, we'll be back out in the field, and hopefully we'll be forgetting about this terrible virus that's taken over. At least we can dream of that anyway. Casey Weismantel is my guest today. Casey, have you ever heard of a thing called COVID-19?
Briefly, and to be honest with you, I've heard enough of it already.
I know. We're going to try to not talk about it a little bit to give people a break. Yes. Casey, my friend, it's good to talk to you. It's been a while. I like, whenever I run into you, I think of the time that we were hunting in Sand Lake Refuge. And we were busting through cattails, and you came out just completely soaked, falling through the ice out on the Sand Lake Refuge. I'll never forget that day. Walking back, dumping water out of your boots.
There's the loyalty of a really good bird dog, and then there's your friend that will walk to the other side of the cattails to block roosters at Sand Lake Refuge. And that was me. I decided, when we were out there, and it was terribly cold, terribly cold. Frozen tears in your eyes, wind out of the north and the west just to hit you twice. And it was terribly cold. And I thought, somebody's got to walk across those cattails and go block those roosters. That never did come out that side, not once. And I thought, I'll do that. Walking on ice has got to be a lot easier than trudging through these cattails,
Yep.
And I got out there with my dog, and the dog was smart enough to not even walk close to me, so that was good on her part. But I got out there, and you hear that subtle crack, and by then it's too late. Your whole life flashed before your eyes. You just realized all the mistakes that you did in life, and you hope you're forgiven as you just plunge to the depth of Sand Lake Refuge. And let's be honest, it was only about 3 or 4 feet deep. But if you take the measuring stick and you start at your boots and you measure up 3 to 4 feet deep, the vitals are getting hit. And that's the stuff that you don't want. And you're right. I had to roll and belly crawl 20,000 yards out of there to get to the other side. And I did. I come walking up the road towards you guys. And it was like you could have wringed me out like a sponge from head to toe. And I stood there and I'm like, guys, I got to go back to the truck. And, you strip down to your Under Armour. And I don't know if they're an advertiser of you guys, but they should be because they make amazing products. But you strip down to your Under Armour and you take your boots and you position them just correctly on the heater vents of your truck. And you stretch your socks off out across the dash of your truck. And that's where you spend the next couple hours, is trying to dry out your gear to get back out in the fields. And, I know I didn't give you guys a colorful picture of how that all went out, but almost word for word, that's how it happened, play by play.
My only regret from that was that I didn't know you had fallen in, nor did the cameraman. And so we didn't get to capture any of that quality television on camera.
Sand Lake Refuge, the amazing habitat, pheasant producing mecca that it is. It's an amazing place to go hunting. I guess I would just A little side note, stay off the ice, I guess.
Right. Well, and I feel terrible because you're back there drying off in your sauna in the truck, and we got to keep hunting. We're filming a show, right? So we keep going. We find the birds. You're not a part of it. The next morning, you have the plan to say, guys, I'm going to bring lunches out at 11 o'clock. And in December, is it open at 9 or 10?
I believe it's 9. No,
Yeah.
10. Sorry,
Okay.
10 to 10. 10. Yep.
Okay, so our plan is all right. Well, we're gonna make one quick walk, and then we will meet you, and we'll continue hunting for the day. Well, the next morning, we get into so many birds that we literally limited out right as you're pulling up with all of our sandwiches, and we're like, Casey, the hunt is already over. So, well,
Well, yeah,
you're good.
because that morning I had to pick up the antenna from FedEx. We
Oh,
had
that's
we had
right. That's
Jimmy rigged
right.
that antenna together with baling wire and duct tape
Hmm.
to connect the audio, and I had to wait for FedEx to meet me at the hotel. And it's tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, watching the clock go by, and you know what's happening. You can feel it. You don't have to be there to enjoy the pheasant. I mean, somebody's having a better day than you are. So I'm waiting, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm excited. And you're right. I made the quickest trip from Aberdeen to Sand Lake Refuge that's ever been recorded in history. And I get there and I see you guys walking out of the fields, high fiving and holding birds and dropping birds on the ground and stumbling over badger holes because you're holding so many birds and high fiving in the fields. And then, you guys turn around and you're like, oh, hey, Casey.
Good to see you. That's a little behind the scenes in the television production. So we drive out to Aberdeen, South Dakota. Well, the cameraman had just returned from a trip out west, and in the flight, there's microphones that attach to the top of the camera, and they're very small. But he actually took them out because he didn't want anything to get bumped around in the flight. So he put them in a pouch, and then he forgot about it. So we drive out to Sand Lake the next day, and we don't have the microphone. So he FedExes them. Casey, you were such a selfless hunter, and you stayed back while we did our best to continue making television happen there. But you got in that show a little bit. That's actually an
Yeah.
episode that just aired this past season, and I've talked to a lot of hunters in the last year, and one thing that is a very common question, like, hey, you got any secret spots? And I'm like, well, actually, there's this place near Aberdeen, South Dakota, just north of there, and it's only open late in the season. It's a
Yep.
special late season hunt. Opens the second Monday of December. But there's thousands of acres of land. There's a lot of cattails, but there's food plots in there too. It's open to the public, and it's polluted with pheasants. And I
Yep.
tell everybody I go there. But it was interesting. So this last year, Casey, I sent a lot of people over to you, and you specifically said, "Hey, you know what? Why don't you just wait a year because we are flooded out. Like the conditions out here are terrible." I mean, how would you describe that to somebody who didn't see it? Because I actually drove through your area, I saw it, but to somebody who didn't, what did it look like last year?
Actually, last year, we've never had a bad year in South Dakota. We really haven't. What we have though is you have to modify your hunt. You have to be willing to come out for that late season or later season hunt. If you want to come out or feel that you have to be out here for pheasant opener, the third Saturday in October, the Holy Grail of South Dakota, the Super Bowl of South Dakota, whatever you want to call it. If you feel you have to be out here for that third Saturday in October, by all means, come out, and I welcome you with open arms. But if you would modify your hunt just briefly to the middle of November at the earliest, so you'd have the balance of November and all of December to play around in our backyard. That, in all honesty, is the best time to come out. Now, why is that, you ask? Well, last year we had wet conditions um, for our early season, and we had that back in 2007 as well. I remember the weekend of pheasant opener in 2007. We got 4.5 inches of rain the weekend of pheasant opener. It's great for the retail stores when they're selling rubber boots and hip waders, and but your dog doesn't seem to like it when they have to swim from one spot to the next. But that's the conditions we had early season this year, and the tough part about that is when it's so wet that you can't get around, and it's so wet that every time you take a step, you're 3 inches taller from the mud on the bottom of your boots. It just doesn't work out. And the problem with that is the farmers can't get in to harvest the crops. The crops are still in the fields. It's too warm. Conditions are too warm for your dogs. Your dogs overheat. And it was a tough early season hunt. And we religiously try to push people to that late season hunting style, that mid-November to all of December. And when those wet conditions, Mother Nature's still in charge, and we have to listen to what she lays down. And sometimes you don't like to listen to that recording, but it's just how it plays out.
Mm-hmm. What was the? I mean, do you have a kind of a guess on how much of the crops out there stayed in last winter? Because I mean, I have to imagine the birds had great wintering conditions with all of that food still in the field.
They did talk about food plots everywhere. It was amazing, and we were wet, but we weren't as wet as a lot of other places. I know North Dakota was really bad. They had crops standing all over the place, and then south of us, south of Aberdeen, was wet as well, wetter than we were. And I don't want to say we were kind of a lucky star in that situation, but we were wet, but we weren't nearly as wet as a lot of other places. But it's tough. You just have to change the way you hunt. Those hot spots that you've gone to every year may or may not be available. And we encourage people to do your homework. When you come out, I tell them you're going to probably spend a day just scouting around because all you're going to have in front of you is that Onyx app, or you're going to have that paper copy of the walk-in atlas from the South Dakota Game and Fish, and you're going to scribble all over it, and you're going to highlight spots, and you're going to put X's through spots, and you're going to spend a day working and scouting, and then you're going to enjoy the rest of your hunt from there on out. But it is doable. It is possible.
What are the Right. Well, yeah. I mean, we definitely experienced it. I mean, obviously, Sand Lake is just one of the resources out there that are open to the public, but there's also quite a bit of public land out there from your pheasant coalition. I mean, can you briefly just say what is the Aberdeen Pheasant Coalition?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Sand Lake being a hidden gem. One of those underutilized resources. 21,000 acres of pheasant hunting mecca, and a chance to hunt a refuge. That's held in reserve all year long until it opens up the first part of December. That's a huge resource. But along with that, we have the Pheasant Coalition, and what that is. It's an initiative started by Pheasants Forever farm biologist Emmett Lenahan in Aberdeen, and the Pheasants Forever chapter in Aberdeen. They have a mission, putting more habitat, more huntable acres on the ground, more pheasant rearing habitat on the ground produces more birds. Wow, what an amazing idea! Too bad somebody else didn't think of that. But right. Their thought process was, we're sick of waiting for somebody else to help us. Let's help ourselves. So with that being said, they got together with businesses and retail and hotels and the Convention and Visitors Bureau in Aberdeen, and they launched the Pheasant Coalition. And what they did is they basically put together a monetary resource to help farmers offset the cost or to entice them to roll their land into CRP and pheasant rearing habitat. I know there's a lot of programs out there, and some of those programs make sense. I'm a city kid that loves to hunt, so I don't know the ins and outs of that, but there's a lot of habitat programs out there, soil programs, and they're just enticing enough where a farmer would want to enroll in their land into that. Well, the Pheasant Coalition gave a monetary incentive to push that farmer over the edge, to make it where they enroll their land for 10 or 15 years into CRP or into some sort of habitat program that benefits the birds. They gave them a dollar, a cash incentive to help them make that decision. But who cares? Big deal. How does that equate for hunters and you and I? Well, now this land, this Pheasant Coalition land, which a lot of it isn't even published on the South Dakota Game Fish and Parks walk-in atlas or the OnX app. This is special. This is insider information. So when you want to say you want to hunt like the locals do, I can't get you any closer to that than sharing a cup of coffee with you. But and that's what you need, is that insider information. You need those hotspots. But the biggest thing about those, and I've hunted some of these hotspots, Travis, with you and with Emmett, and it takes a different mindset. When you hunt this acreage of land, and you may see a couple birds, you might bag one or two birds. You don't want to get down in the dumps of like, oh, I wish we'd have done better. And Emmett set me straight in that respect. I'm like, oh, it's too bad we didn't get more birds out of this spot. And he's like, Casey, it's not how many birds you harvest, it's how many birds you produce. And I mean, talk about a knockout punch right there. I mean, he's exactly right. I mean, it isn't about harvesting birds. It isn't about putting birds in the bag. It's about how many birds can you produce, which produces that quality hunt, to watch that dog work or to watch that youngster, my stepdaughter, pull the trigger on her first rooster pheasant. I mean, that's what it's about. And if those guys, if listeners out there are thinking it's about putting birds on the ground and birds in the bag, I mean, you're missing out on the enjoyment of the best part of pheasant hunting. But the Pheasant Coalition. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think I really think it's a combination of things. I mean, everybody walks the field for a different reason. There's a lot of guys that, they go to your region because you have more birds than most other places in North America. I mean, that's forever and ever been considered, the pheasant capital of the world. And so, they can walk a field in Illinois or some other place and see a couple. But I mean, I remember we walked that Pheasant Coalition land it was mid-December. And so the season was several weeks old. And obviously it's been hunted. It's public land, but I was satisfied with the amount of birds that we saw out there.
Yep. And you're right. I should probably rewind that. I guess it's when you're hosting people or helping out, you feel a little more added pressure of, you want it to be gangbusters. You want it to be the best they've ever seen. And that's right. It's about how many pheasants can you produce, not how many can you harvest. And that's what it's all about. And, the Pheasant Coalition, you can find that information. Just Google Aberdeen Pheasant Coalition or our website, which is huntfishsd.com. And we direct you right to that. We try to make it as simple as possible. We're not trying to hide anything out here. We welcome the hunters. We know what the hunters bring to the area, the economic impact, the hunters that come out early season, late season. They extend our season where a lot of other communities shut off for the fourth quarter. We thrive. We're a 4-season destination here in Aberdeen, and hunting and the Pheasant Coalition and all of our habitat help make that possible.
Yeah. So Casey, your job title is, if somebody says, what do you do? Because you work in tourism for Aberdeen, but are you a professional hunter that that works in tourism? Are you a professional tourist director that happens to hunt, or how would you sum it up? Because I'm guessing a lot of your conversations are with hunters.
Yeah, they are. My title here is the executive director of the Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. We are a tourism agency. You're right. So if you wanted to break it down level wise, there's South Dakota Tourism. We are the tourism agency for the city of Aberdeen and surrounding area. My passion is hunting and fishing. I love to get out in the outdoors. I love to watch other people enjoy it. I know the value that's there. Growing up, I never had those resources. My dad took me hunting one time and one time only. He took me fishing one time and one time only. But I could rattle you off with stories for the next 4 days of the enjoyment I've had hunting and fishing since then. And you're right. Being the executive director here, we promote the area for vacation travel and hunting and outdoor enthusiasts in the fall. And it's funny you ask. How did I get into this industry, or how did I become who I am? I've always had the gift of gab, I guess. Easy to talk to somebody.
No.
Yeah, it's tough. But my first day that I came to for a job interview here at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, I rolled up with my 16-foot duck boat hooked up to my pickup, with my chocolate lab sitting in the front seat. Looked professional, dressed business casual. Hop into the office with a dozen donuts, and I dropped them on the desk, and I said, "Here, this is a gift from me to you guys." Figured that way every time they snagged a donut throughout the day, they'd think of this guy who brought him in for the job interview. And I went in and talked to the president of the board at that time, and he's like, we really want to shift our focus a little bit. We want to advertise a little bit more and try to capture that outdoor market, and working with outdoor writers and film crews like Travis and the Flush. And what can we do to get to capture that? What are your thoughts? I said, if you look out that front window there, you're going to see my 16-foot camouflage John boat with my 25-horse Mariner on the back. And you're going to see my chocolate lab sitting in the front seat. And I said, as soon as we're done with this job interview, me and Striga are going to go do some product research. And he's like, oh, man, we can't compete with that. Just you get the job. You're here. It's yours. So that sent me down the path of where I am today. And I do enjoy hosting outdoor writers and film crews. And I do enjoy connecting with those hunters that want to come out here and experience what South Dakota has to offer, and to experience what we take for granted. I'm not going to lie. Everybody from South Dakota seems like they take the resource that we have at our fingertips for granted, and we shouldn't, because there's a lot of people, I hear it over and over and over again, people that say, you know what, when I retire, I'm ditching this state income tax and I'm moving to South Dakota. And I'm like, good, that'd be great. Come to Aberdeen. We're right over the border. So, I mean, there's advantages, to have that hunting and fishing resource right in our backyard. And you're right, Travis, you said it earlier. You send a lot of people our direction, and we appreciate that. We appreciate the phone calls and the referrals by email, and I like to connect to those people. I like to give them that insider information. I like them to feel welcome. And you'd be surprised at how many people stop by the office just to meet us and thank us for the information that we sent them. When you see that completed process, and you see that worn out dog and those busted up ratty hunting boots and a couple birds on a tailgate, this guy just completed his dream hunt, his bucket list. He put a check mark by it. And we get the enjoyment of helping provide that pen to put that check mark.
Yeah, well, we like to send them out there because of our experiences. We've obviously been out in your neck of the woods more than one time filming television shows, and it's a great experience. What, Casey, I mean, there's so many questions in my mind right now that I want to ask you, but specifically relating to what's happening right now. So I'm in Minnesota, you're in South Dakota. Our governors are taking two completely different approaches to COVID-19. you guys are essentially, I mean, you're doing your best to stay safe, but you're not being restricted in any way. What are your businesses that you work with telling you? Do they want people to come out? Are they afraid of people coming out? Where do they stand?
It's a mixed bag, but I think everybody's leaning towards the positive. In Minnesota and South Dakota, maybe a little bit more in South Dakota, it takes a little longer for the effects to hit us. Everybody bands together, everybody has that community pride. But you're right. Our governors do have a different approach, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. But we're looking at that soft opening. How can we get back to whatever normal provides? But the restaurants are ready, the hotels are ready, the cleaning practices that are put in place, the CDC guidelines, the social distancing that everybody adheres to. That's weird for me. The social distancing is weird for me because me, I'm the type of guy that'll walk up and shake your hand or punch you in the shoulder or show you my wet boots when I fell in the water. But it's tough. It's tough to digest from, or it's tough to adjust from that. Our offices, we worked from home for a month. It was the worst experience ever. I couldn't get back into the office fast enough. Why? Because coffee's free, and you have access to all of your files, and that's what you need. And to have that understanding of when will this end? Where will this end? What will happen? Will this? Will that? Nobody knows. And the best thing you can do is just try to stay safe. Try to adjust your lifestyle and those around you. But we're looking for Memorial Weekend here. We have a theme park in Aberdeen that's free to get into. Wiley Park and Storybook Land, a great kid destination, family destination. It's opening this weekend, Memorial Day, and you might scratch your head and be like, "Oh, it's opening? Are you crazy?" But it is what it is, because I think people have to self-judge themselves. If you don't feel comfortable in a situation, especially walking across the cattails, if you don't feel comfortable in that situation, don't do it. But if you do feel comfortable and want to take that chance, by all means, it's on your own person. But um, we understand we're just trying to provide the best and safest environment that we can. Like I said, with the hotels and the restaurants. But how does that translate over into this fall and pheasant hunting? You couldn't ask for better social distancing. Um,
Right.
6 feet apart, hunting through the fields. I mean, it's I think everybody by then is going to be worn out. We're going to need that relax, or that reassurance that we can try to get back to some sort of normalcy, whatever that is.
Right. Well, and I guess my thought is, or I'm wondering, are the hunting lodges? I mean, I know right now they're probably typically booking a lot of hunters for this fall if they haven't already rebooked from last fall. Are people canceling right now? Are they not calling? Are you seeing firsthand, what's going on there?
I think, and every year and it's funny because, we talked about that pheasant opener, that third Saturday in October, and how that's just such an important date in the calendar year. But every year those dates go unused and unutilized. I think maybe our message of hunt later instead of earlier is starting to take hold. But some of the lodges are seeing some of those early dates open up. Or you're getting those last minute confirmations by email. I think everybody's just kind of waiting and hoping to see how all this plays out. They keep talking about flattening the curves and the peaks and the valleys. It'll hit in May, it'll hit in June. I don't think anybody really knows. I think everybody's just kind of waiting in limbo to find out, when will this be over, or when will this be minimal enough to enjoy that. And I think the hunting lodges are seeing that, especially for October. But a lot of them that I'm talking to are already booking up solid for November and December. So I guess if somebody is looking to come out, our website, huntfishsd.com, has a list of all our lodges and outfitters and links to their contact information. And I would encourage people to take a look and give them a call. That's the best resource they could give you is to find out what they're doing, what dates they might have open. But until this COVID situation rights itself and people see and have that sense of security, we just won't know.
Right. Well, I'm sure it's going to play out. Well, right now, what are you seeing on the ground? Are you seeing?
Oh my gosh, there's pheasants everywhere.
Good conditions.
Really? There is. Why? I took the truck and the garbage to the dump yesterday, and it's about a 4-mile trip via gravel roads, and I live just outside the city limits, and there was roosters everywhere herding their hens, and it was just comical because everything is kind of those chisel plowed fields that haven't been planted yet. Everything's kind of gray and drab, and it's kind of a joke. It's those roosters with that big red patch. They stand out like a bullseye out in the middle of that field, and those hens, you can't see them at all. So then not only do you have to worry about dodging deer in South Dakota, but now you're looking at there's a rooster. How many hens does he have? Oh, I see one. No, there's 3, and their love is in the air, I guess, and that's good to see. But from what we're seeing hearing from the guides and the outfitters, we had a mild winter this year, and that's good. We caught snow on Thanksgiving weekend, and we caught snow over Christmas break. Other than that, I didn't have to shovel the sidewalk at all, and that was amazing. So talk about a mild winter, talk about habitat conditions there put in place, wintering habitat. As long as the spring is nice and cool and the summer isn't too hot, we are going to be set up again for another amazing fall in Aberdeen.
Yeah, what are the habitat conditions like outside of the places that we discussed, the Pheasant Coalition and Sand Lake Refuge? What else are you seeing?
We're still seeing some of that state ground, the walk-in areas, the crepe land. We have some of the largest crepe acreage in South Dakota, just around Aberdeen in that James River Valley. And if you want to talk about the golden spot in South Dakota, it's that Aberdeen to Huron transition. And not to shed some love to Huron, but that Aberdeen, that James River Valley as it runs north and south is some of the best cropland, but also some of the best pheasant habitat in South Dakota. But the walking areas, the crepe land, and another resource that gets underutilized is the game production areas and waterfowl production areas. I myself, I don't like shooting steel shot. I don't know why. I can't hit nothing, but I just don't have the faith in the steel shot like I do when I'm pulling up with lead. But those game production areas sorry, there's a train going by. We're located in the depot downtown Aberdeen, and every once in a while a train goes by. But those game production areas and waterfowl production areas are some of the best habitat and late season habitat, because once those crops come down, that farmer harvests that corn or harvests those beans adjacent, that's some of the best habitat available. And like I've always said at sports shows and travel shows, if you want to come out early and you want to be here for the opener and you want to hunt that grassy piece of walking area next to the cornfield, I would love to watch you do that. I'm going to pop the tailgate. I'm going to grab a beverage and I'm going to sit there and watch you do that, because you're not going to see a single pheasant until those crops are down. And once those crops are down, those habitat areas, that crepe and those coalition and those walk-in areas is some of the best pheasant concentrations you'll find in South Dakota.
It's amazing to me, all the years that we've been doing this, we spend a lot of time on the road during the middle of the week. So I always tell people, here's my advice. All right. We hunt public land all over the country, and the opening weekend, maybe the first few days, opening 2 weekends of the season, the public land, it gets hunted a fair amount. But most of the time the crops are in, like you just said, And most of those birds aren't even there when that dog in those boots walk past. And so if you wait 3 weeks to a month and you go hunt public land just about anywhere in America, and specifically on a Tuesday through Thursday, those 3 days of the week, it's amazing how few hunters you see and how many birds there are. And it just never seems to fail. Casey,
that time frame that you said falls right in line with what we preach too. That middle of November through the whole rest of the season. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Casey, you said something interesting earlier, that your dad only took you fishing once and hunting one time. Why did you fall in love with hunting when you didn't have the opportunity to do it?
The first part was I didn't really fall in love with hunting. I fell in love with dogs, and we were out hunting back in the day. Let's rewind the clock here. Let's put the visual effect out there for your listeners. Back in the day, the golden days of pheasant hunting, I was just a young pup, and we were hunting a strip of land that is a mile long by an eighth of a mile wide. It's got a creek bottom that runs through it, just to give you the visual. But my dad and all his brothers and all our uncles and whoever have you, one day a year they would take off work and they would hunt this creek bottom, this 1 mile stretch of land for one day a year, and that was all they do. So of course, I was old enough now. Took hunter safety course. I got my dad's Winchester 1200 with a 36-inch barrel on it, or maybe it was longer. I can't remember, but it was a beast. It was heavy. I could barely hold the dang thing up. And we're walking this area, and I'm walking right next to the creek, and maybe that's where it came from, Travis, because my dad used to make me walk through the cattails, so maybe that's where the whole sand lake came from. But anyways, I'm walking next to these cattails, busting cover, trying to show that I'm a trooper to all my uncles and distant relatives that you haven't seen ever in your entire life, just because it's the pheasant hunting is the only reason why they come out. This rooster gets up from left to right into my shoulder, crossing pattern, 45-degree angle, clipping along at 15 miles an hour, and I crushed this bird. I folded it like a sack of potatoes, and this thing hits the ground, bounces right into the middle of the creek.
Oof.
Great. How are we going to go get this? Not only do I fall through the ice, now I got to go walk into the water to get this bird. Here comes this golden retriever, bounds into the water, retrieves this bird, and drops it right at my feet. This dog didn't know who shot it, but it dropped it right at my feet, and that was like done deal. Put a big old stamp of approval right on top of my head. And that was the only time my dad took me pheasant hunting. And we finished out the field, 20 guys on a mile march, made a pass in an hour. We had 60 birds on the ground, and we would do that religiously. And those are the memories that everybody has. And those are the days that I would love to see South Dakota and every spot in the nation get back to.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do here. But yeah, that was the one and only time he ever took me pheasant hunting. And every year I ask him, I say, hey, you want to go pheasant hunting? You want to come along? And, of course, I'm multiple dogs deep into my life now. And you don't want to come along and watch Gretchen and Luna hunt. And nah, I got to mow the grass. I got to do this. I got to do that. He just keeps playing that card on me. And I don't know. I don't know if it's just something that he didn't enjoy or he realized I was a better shot than him. I don't know, but I wish I could share those fields one more time with my dad before it's too late. But it is a memory that he provided, and it was enough to give me the kick in the shorts that I needed. I guess I thank you for that.
It just shows that it doesn't take a lot to inspire somebody to want to go out and do it. I mean, I've taken people hunting and fishing basically my whole life, and you just got to show them. They just need to experience it one time, because you're just planting a seed by doing that. You don't know how that seed is going to grow, but man, it takes any experience at all. It doesn't have to be a good one to have somebody get interested in it. Have you ever asked them? Is it something where your dad just didn't hunt very often? So it's not like he was going hunting every Saturday with his buddies and he just didn't bring you. It's just that he didn't hunt.
He never did. On
Okay.
both sides of the family, my dad's side, my mom's side, I'm the only one that gets out and enjoys the outdoors all the way down, as far down as you can possibly reach. I'm the only one who does it, and maybe I'm the oddity. I don't know, but I enjoy it. So
Well, you are odd, that is for sure, and
that
I
is
can
true.
say that because because you're a friend. But so did you grow up in Aberdeen your whole life? Is that home? Has there been anywhere else that you've lived?
I did. Born and raised in Aberdeen. Lived here my whole life, and you had mentioned Illinois. And a shout out to my Illini friends in Illinois. I did move to Illinois for about 3 years of my life. An outside sales position took me there. I was all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I was covering the whole state of Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and eastern Iowa was my sales route. My farthest account was up in Door County, which was like 8 hours. And I was under the impression that the hunting and fishing in Illinois was just as good as South Dakota. But here you have a kid who fishes for walleye and hunts pheasants, and they fish for crappies and bass and hunt deer. So I mean, you talk about a fish out of water. That was me. All my tackle was useless, and my guns I had to modify. But I remember my uncle Ted, and if I could paint you a picture of him, think of cousin Eddie from the National Lampoon's Vacation. That's my Uncle Ted. And when I moved to Illinois, he took me under his wing, and he's like, "Well, the first thing we got to do is get you a FOID card." And I'm like, "What's that?" He goes, "Don't ask." He goes, "You just got to apply for one, which tells the state of Illinois that you own a firearm, and you need that in order to get a license." I'm like, "Okay, fine." He goes, "Because if we hurry, we can still make it in on Illinois pheasant season." Oh, they have one. Great. So we go hunting. We're hunting south of the 36 parallel, south of some county line and whatever have you. I don't even know this, but we're hunting through briar patches. I mean, stuff that has needles that's like 2.5 inches long and rips your clothing and just a miserable day. And but this was great, man. I was getting to experience what I knew and what I love, and I thank Illinois for that. And we hunted hard for all day, and I had a rooster get up at my feet, and I still tell the story. I had a rooster get up my feet, and that thing was so young, it still had eggshell on top of its head as it's flying away, and I pulled up on it, and I let it go, and my uncle's screaming at me, shoot it, and I'm like. I said, no, I said, I couldn't do it. It not that it didn't seem right. It just, I just let it go. And I enjoyed the fact that I was spending time with my uncle and I got to see Illinois rooster and kind of got to experience a little taste of home, at that given time. And I couldn't let that taste of home go. So I had to stand there and enjoy it. I did. I lived out there for 3.5 years and decided to move back home and have been enjoying it ever since. I applied for the position here as a sales associate, and I was fortunate enough to land that job. And then 4 years ago, I became the executive director of the CVB and have been enjoying it ever since.
Well, it sure puts into perspective when you go out and you experience a hunt like that out in Illinois, because a lot of the visiting hunters, they come from the east and they just don't have what you have. And when I meet people like you all over the country when we're traveling, and I just sometimes look at them and I say, do you ever hunted anywhere else besides home here? And sometimes they have and sometimes they haven't, and I just say, you might not really understand how good you have it until you go somewhere else. And Casey, you've got a lot of opportunity out there. Let's wrap this up with one final question. Do you have like an insider tip on a place? I've told a lot of people about Sand Lake. Obviously, we told the nation about it when we put a television show out there. But I mean, it's a wonderful spot. Do you have somewhere else that people can go, public land, that you're like, oh, this is the honey hole?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Sand Lake Refuge, that was my first year experiencing it. I've lived here how many years, and that's my first time I've ever hunted Sand Lake Refuge. I guess I was just, in all honesty, didn't really feel the need. And to have that resource in our backyard, that's 21,000 acres of prime pheasant habitat, a refuge that opens up late December. Where else could we go, Travis? I mean, where else could we go that Tuesday through Thursday? Like you said, the best resource I can give you is that Pheasant Coalition land. It is a hidden gem. I believe on the website now, there's 23 different sites. They call them sites. There's 23 different areas of pheasant producing habitat, which obviously we know is public hunting availability. It's private, and that's the key. It's private land that's been open to public hunting. It's not public land that's open for public hunting. This is private land that's open for public hunting. And that Pheasant Coalition land is the best resource I could provide. The Pheasant Coalition in Aberdeen, they put down 4,000 acres of pheasant producing habitat for public hunting to enjoy. But they've completed their mission. They've completed the 1.0 version of their mission, and now they're out fundraising again for the 2.0. So they want to take that 4,000 and they want to make it into 8,000. So they want to put down another 4,000 acres of pheasant hunting habitat and huntable acres back in Aberdeen. And the nice thing about it is these are acres that are just in Brown County. And Aberdeen is in the heart of Brown County. So basically 30 miles any direction is Brown County. So we're trying to concentrate our efforts. We want the hunters to concentrate their efforts, and we want them to choose Aberdeen. And like I said before, we're not waiting for somebody else to do the work for us. We're doing the work ourselves. And other communities like Mitchell and Huron and Chamberlain and all those other places are starting to take notice that we're taking a portion of their hunting hunting dollars, and it's not about the dollars. It's about providing that service, because if we don't have the hunters that come to the area, that's less eggs that are being eaten in the morning at the local coffee shop. Those are less steaks that are being grilled Friday evening at the local steakhouse. And everybody benefits from the Pheasant Coalition. And that's why everybody buys into it community-wide.
Well, I've seen it work firsthand. I appreciate everything you guys are doing out there. I highly recommend visiting your neck of the woods this fall. And if you don't make it out in the early season, don't feel bad, because late season is really a gem out there. Casey, if anybody wants to watch you before and after you fell in those cattails, unfortunately, we don't have you going through them. I regret that. It means we're going to have to come back out and film another show so that we can, maybe tempt you to climb back out into the, into the cattails again. But that episode is right now up on our YouTube channel, The Flush TV. Just a quick search and you'll see Sand Lake Refuge. It was a fantastic place to hunt. I hope to someday go back, but it's open for anybody. Casey, you have a wonderful day, my friend.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you giving us a shout and connecting with you and your listeners. And if anybody wants to get a hold of us, our website, huntfishsd.com, they can request a hunting packet. We'll be more than happy to mail it out to them. It has all of that Pheasant Coalition information in there, Sand Lake information in there. Anything on public land, private land they would need, we'll be more than happy to accommodate them and point them in the right direction.
All right, there you have it. We appreciate your time today. We'll catch you next time on another episode of the Flush Podcast.